What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees. We got my boy Sam here today, and we're talking about Giancarlo Stanton, how Aaron Boone said he would look to use Giancarlo Stanton this year. Now, Stanton, coming off of a weird season for him where he hit for a ton of power. He hit 31 home runs in 110 games, but the average and OBP just weren't there. I don't think either of us are concerned about his offense for next year. I think we were both, in the same line of thinking of, Stanton's going to mash next year because that's what Stanton does very well. But how the Yankees use him and how the Yankees are going to give him playing time on the field and at the DH spot is definitely always going to be a point of contention or just a question because you never really know how well Stanton can handle the outfield. But I do know that, when it comes to playing right field at Yankee Stadium, he does have still a pretty good arm and he's shown he can handle the position pretty well. He has made some pretty solid plays out there. But Sam, let me know, what do you, Aaron Boone said the Yankees are going to use him in a DH role, playing him in left field in some ballparks, and then and then if he plays the outfield at Yankee Stadium, it'll probably be right field. Sam, what do you think about that game plan? And most importantly, Sam, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great, man. It's great to be here with you today. Happy Friday to you. I mean, we're hitting the weekend, dude. I'm pumped. But Daddy, we're talking about Daddy Stanton today, baby, and that's my guy. It's my favorite player on the Yankees at the moment. And listen, this guy mashed last year. He had 31 home runs, like you mentioned. He still hits the piss out of the ball. But when we're talking about his versatility and what he's going to be able to play, he can play in Houston. He can play in Boston in that left field spot just because the dimensions are way more favorable out there in left field. Obviously, you're going to have Judge out there in right. And then some days you're going to see him out there in right field in Yankee Stadium. But it's going to be very similar to what they did with him last year. I know that they wanted to trot him out more in the outfield last year just to have some more versatility. And especially when we had Matt Carpenter in the lineup, we could DH Matt Carpenter. And it was way more favorable to end up having a guy like Stanton in the outfield as compared to Carpenter. I know Stanton's not great in the outfield, but he's at least a little bit more athletic than a guy like Carpenter was at 37, 38 years old. So, but with Stanton, man, still has a can of an arm, so can still really play in the outfield. He plays well. And I do remember he had that diving catch in Houston in the ALCS, which is really nice. I remember you ran into the scoreboard in left field, which is really cool. But with Stanton this year, I think he's going to bounce back. He had a really weird year last year. Remember at the All-Star break, he had a 312 OBP, but was still the All-Star starter in the outfield. He had the massive home run in the All-Star game, which was the coolest thing ever. And then, the injuries kind of tailed off for him. And I remember he missed about a month between, July and August, and then really didn't tap back into it until September, and then didn't have a great playoffs either because we're so used to seeing him have great playoff runs, especially ever since he's been a Yankee. He's got one of the highest WRC pluses of any playoff player ever. That's how clutch he's been for this Yankees team and over the course of his career in the playoffs. So, but with Stanton, he's going to bounce back next year, I think. And, we're going to see him play in left field. We're going to see him play in right field a ton. And I'm excited to see how they use him because I want to see him play more in the outfield. There have been points in time in his career, especially with the Yankees, where they put him out in the outfield and he's hit better. Because when you really think about it, as a baseball player, as a designated hitter, you hit once and then you expect to go right back out on the field. You're like, next play, like, forget about it, whatever. As a designated hitter, you hit one time, you got to wait 8 more spots until you can come up. So you're just kind of sitting on the bench waiting. So you're kind of festering in your thoughts. And when you're in a slump like that, it's tough. And with Stanton, they decided to put him out in the outfield a couple of times. He continued to mash. And, yeah, we're going to see him be versatile this year, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does this year.
One interesting note is that I don't know if you remember in Game 4, I believe it was, the Yankees played Stanton in left field at Yankee Stadium. That was really interesting. We haven't seen him do that, if I'm not mistaken, since 2019 or 2018. He might have played there in 2020. No, he did not play there in 2020. So, he hasn't really been allowed to play that position at Yankee Stadium in a very long time. Stanton is someone who, as you mentioned, is always in any big spot the Yankees need him. He didn't have a great postseason, but you think of that Game 5 home run he hit, that set the tone. I think at that point in time, the Yankees won that game with that swing. I think the Yankees were in the driver's seat the second that ball, he connected with that ball. He put a lot of pressure on Cleveland. He put a lot of pressure on Savali in that specific start and knocked him out early. Cleveland has a great bullpen, but it put the Yankees in a position where all they had to do was just chip away at the Cleveland bullpen. They did. They held Cleveland down offensively. People forget Stan had 24 home runs in his first 218 plate appearances. He was on pace to hit, nearly 50 home runs if he would have played a full season. And I get it. I'm not going to sit here and say you should expect Stan to play 150 games for you, but, projections have him at 130 games, which I think is a pretty healthy number for Stan. I think that's a good number. That's where you want him to be at. If he can give you 125 games with a 132 WRC plus, which is what his projections are, I mean, that's a really good season for Giancarlo Stanton. And as you mentioned, it's about keeping him athletic. It's tough as a DH to keep yourself, keep your body completely in sync and kind of keeping yourself, how do I put this, in a groove, I guess. Stan is one of those guys too, where after hitting the IL, when he comes back, he has a lot of rust. There's a lot of things he has to kind of shake off and get himself accustomed to. So I think Giancarlo Stanton is someone who needs to make sure that with the Yankees, they need to make sure that, he comes back to the IL and he has time to readjust. I feel like that's not something he had when he came back into the fold in September. He didn't really find himself too much. Stanton is someone who has to be at 100% and has to be, getting consistent playing time in order for him to be the monster Stanton where he just goes off and he's just, unstoppable. Sometimes he just goes white hot and you just can't stop the guy. One thing I'm really excited about with Stan next year is the fact that he's going to be given the opportunity that the Yankees have the outfield depth where they don't have to force Stanton to play the outfield if he doesn't need to. And another part of this is, the Yankees have a really good center fielder defensively now in Bader. Does that give them the option of putting Stanton in left field a little bit in Yankee Stadium? Maybe, right? Boone specifically mentioned ballparks like Houston and Boston. The Yankees are going to play, I believe, they play less games against their division rivals this year with the new schedule, but we're going to be seeing a ton of different ballparks. The Yankees are definitely going to try to put Stanton in left field whenever they can because his bat in the lineup is really important. They have Cabrera who can fill in if need be. The Yankees are probably still looking to go external with a left fielder. I know Brian Reynolds recently got a 6-year, $75 million offer. That was, a joke of an offer. And usually when a team leaks an offer like that, that can mean that a player's on his way out. But Stan is someone that, he's so important to this team. He's this team's 4-hitter. You have that Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, murderers row. Those guys are going to hit 30-plus home runs. They hit 30-plus home runs each. And Stanton played, he was injured. He played 110 games. And Rizzo, remember, he had back issues too. So, these guys can absolutely mash it, even when they don't play full season. So, Sam, I guess, giving my last thoughts on Stanton here before I turn over to you, because I know you're the big Stanton guy here. I love Stanton, but that's your guy. You know what I mean? When you look at what Giancarlo Stanton can provide for this line, the protection he can provide for the younger guys on this team, what do you think are your baseline what do you expect from Stanton next year? Are you a little bit higher than what projections have him at, which I still think is pretty good? Do you have any hot takes, any monster predictions for Stanton going into next year? Because I know you love him, and I know that he's capable of putting up any monster numbers people slate him for.
Yeah, so I have seen some tweets out there. Some people have been firing off Stanton MVP tweets, which I don't think is going to happen, even though I love him. But, very similar to what we talked about with Judge earlier this week, I'm going to look at Stanton's 2021. Stanton's 2021 is like what I expect from him on like a year in, year out basis. He had 35 home runs. He had 97 RBIs, clocked a 137 WRC plus, and he played 140 games. So that's like healthy for Stanton. If he's missing 22 games a year, I'm not going to have an issue with that because he's still going to hit the piss out of the ball. And if I can get 35 home runs from Stanton in any given season, I will take it. And one interesting tidbit that I do remember from earlier this season is that there was a point in time where the Detroit Tigers as a team had 85 home runs, like flat out them as a team, their entire lineup, 85 home runs. Judge, Rizzo, and Stanton had 90, like together. I want to say it was like I think it was like the beginning of August. They all had 90. Mind you, Judge was massively inflated because he had, probably 45 home runs at that point. But still, they had combined for 90 home runs. And when you have all three of those guys clicking on all cylinders and you're just mashing the piss out of the ball, I'm just super excited for this guy next year. And I'm just like stoked because I love him so goddamn much. And he's just got so much power. He's so short to the ball. It's the craziest transfer of power that I think I've ever seen in a swing ever. It's a short stride. He's got the closed stance, and all he does is just get it out there. And he's one of the strongest dudes that we've ever seen in this game ever. So, when I'm looking at next year, it's interesting, man, because we're going to be able to like flip-flop that DH role even more than we were able to last year. When you talk about a cycle between Glaber, when you talk about a cycle between, DJ LeMahieu, Stanton, and even Cabrera and Donaldson, I guess if we give him time at DH as well, that's 5 guys you can really, cycle in and out and give Stanton a couple off days, maybe put him in the outfield and give all of those guys some off days so everybody can stay healthy. And I think that's going to be key for that team next year. And I think it's going to be key for Stanton next year to be able to stay healthy. And I'm just pumped for this guy. I'm pumped because he's going to come back and he's going to fucking rake. He's going to do it.
100%. And by the way, to update on that Detroit Tigers metric, they combined for more home runs than the Tigers did last year as a trio. I believe they finished at 125, and the Tigers finished at 110. So they were 2 shy of Cleveland, who we faced off in the LDS. I mean remember those 2 of those 3 guys spent stints on the IL. So this team can really mash. And as you mentioned, that DH spot is definitely going to be something the Yankees can rotate, and the outfield spots rotate a little bit more. They have some young guys entering the equation as well. I know the Yankees, Brian Cashman raved about Austin Wells. We could see some time in the outfield and DH and catcher, variety of different positions. As this team is more flexible, I think this team's going to improve and, be able to mix and match and figure out their best lineup for October. But thank you guys so much for checking us out. Let us know what you guys think about Giancarlo Stanton and where you guys view Stanton, what numbers you guys view Stanton putting up next year. Again, let us know what you guys think. We love your guys' support so much. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the TikTok. Sam's doing great stuff with shorts content all over. Make sure to check out Empire Sports Media for all your New York sports content. I know we both got some really nice articles coming out, and we'll see you guys next video. Thank you guys so much. Peace out.